So this was the biggest incident, but there are, on daily basis, I think we face with a lot of incidents, but just have the courage to speak up and tell the person that this is my boundary and this is something which is not allowed. So, if you're going to cross it, I'm going to report it. Make it very clear to that person that this is the warning that I'm giving you, and after that, I'm just going to go and report. So, yeah.
So that person basically became your friend and then your harasser.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he
He was
used,
good with you
yeah.
too.
Wow, what a bipolar personality, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's terrible. So since you spoke about that, girls need to document whatever conversations they're having with their harassers at work, female or male, bosses or peers or whatever. So Lala Rokh, I'm going to come to you on this because one question that always goes on in my head that, if there is somebody at work, let's talk about sexual harassment because that's the most common one, I think. So, if a guy just walks past me and, just pass on a sexual innuendo, just, in a verbal way, like he has said something, a nasty comment or whatever. So it's so difficult for females or whoever is being harassed to prove that sort of harassment because it's not documented. There is no way to prove it. And that's why it's so difficult to kind of prove harassment in a workplace or generally. So what is your take on that? Like, how can you prove harassment when it's not documented anywhere?
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum everyone. Before I get to the question of how do you prove the harassment, right? Let's take one step back. And let's ask ourselves the question, what is harassment? Because very, very important to understand what I'm dealing with, right? There is a law on sexual harassment at work. It is now expanded very significantly to take in a broad spectrum of harassment, right? So what you asked me for is sexual harassment, but sexual harassment is only one specific small type of harassment. There are many, many facets of harassment. Even, three girls getting together and gossiping about you and spreading things about you is harassment. Somebody who's looking at you in a meeting and constantly putting you down. Every time you start talking, there are two people who roll their eyes and look at each other like this and say, oh my God, she's, giving that impression she started talking again. That is also harassment, right? But what you need to do, and I recommend this to every woman everywhere, is that the law is not some obscure thing out there. Know your rights. Understand your rights. There is a company policy. I promise you there are HR professionals sitting over here. Every company has a policy. Every policy has a section on discrimination. There is a textbook example of what is harassment. Make sure you read it. Make sure you know what the policy says. Make sure you know what the law says. And then see what is this behavior? Where do I fit into this definition, right? So as a lawyer, we always say, break down how you're going to prove this. What is your situation? Take stock of your situation. Look at what the policy, the law itself is saying. See how you fit into that definition, and then start collecting the evidence, right? Okay, so if I'm saying this is what is I'm alleging, how am I going to prove it? So remember, every time there is this one thing in law, whoever alleges has to prove. Yeah, so if you're going to say this happened to me, then you have to say this is the supporting evidence of how it happened to you. Now you said, okay, now this is a passing innuendo. Somebody just passes a remark. Where were you when this remark was made? Who was around when this remark was made? Is there any area of CCTV footage? Is this a one-off remark, or is this something that is an ongoing trend? Where does this happen? So you need to start taking stock of your situation. You need to start taking stock of this person's behavior. One is enough, right? But if it is a consistent pattern which is ongoing, start making yourself aware of your surroundings. Where are you? Who was witnessing this? Are there any cameras around this place? How can I document this behavior? Screenshots are your best friend. If somebody is sending you messages, now so I work on a disciplinary committee, right? So all of these cases come to me. Now disappearing messages, delete for everyone. The minute a bad message comes, take a damn screenshot of it, build your repertoire, because half the time people will tell me, he deleted it. It came, he deleted it. Yeah, it disappeared. I don't have evidence. So evidence is your best friend. Proactive decision making is your best friend, and knowing exactly what your rights are your best friend, right? So awareness. Go talk to somebody. Go talk to legal. They know this stuff.
Okay, thank you so much. I think absolutely, that is absolutely a very good answer, that we all need to keep receipts. All of you remember. Uh, of course, harassment is a very strong word. We all can agree. And, just so that I see a lot of young ladies here. So just so that, these ladies do not confuse, they're not confused between a bad behavior, a slightly bad behavior, and harassment. So can we differentiate it, Maha? Is there a fine line between a bad behavior and harassment, or is it the same thing? When should we take charge and report something?
I think there's a fine line between the two. The difference for me would be we have to look at the impact that it has on you, on your mental state and all. Is it repetitive? That's another thing. The frequency is another thing. Then the intent. I think the main thing which I should have brought forward is the intent. Is the intent bad? Are they trying to harm you? Are they trying to use their power? So, are they saying anything which is, discriminatory? So, you have to be mindful of that. If it's a one-off thing, a joke, or inappropriate joke they would do one-off, you can tell them off. And when you're telling them, another thing is, how do they respond to it? Are they apologetic, or are they saying, oh, you're overthinking, So a lot of times you would find people who are harassing will never admit. And somebody who's made a silly joke or done something inappropriate without the wrong intent would apologize immediately and say, I didn't realize, I'm sorry, we'll try and that it should not happen again. So yeah, so for me that.
So how many chances should we give a person? If a person is being, slightly inappropriate, you can call that person out immediately, or should give them the benefit of the doubt that, okay.
Depends how you feel about it, how much you can take in. Sometimes, if it's a one-off thing, you can let it go. But if it happens again, then you know that that's the nature of that person, or the relationship that's there, or the kind of relationship that's building now. So you have to put put it very, very clear to that person that this is the boundary and you cannot go beyond that. So, yeah.
Okay, Lalaro, would you like to add something here?
So I think, look, I was listening to you, and I'm always amazed because, fellow panelists will also have, opinions, and everyone has their personal boundaries. So I respect the fact that you're saying, see how it goes, and every situation's going to be different. For me personally, one is enough, yeah? But that's not necessary for you. Everyone, and even two panelists sitting over here, will analyze the situation differently. So whilst, for me, it would be like, you made something, I didn't like it, I'm going to tell you first off, I didn't like it, this is a boundary, stay behind it, yeah? A lot of women are not like that. A lot of women will not even realize something happened inadvertently in their head, right? They'll go back and say, was that really what it was? Or am I reading too much? We think on ourselves as well. But the minute you realize it, I feel it's a good idea to put that very clearly over there where you say, look, hi, we may be colleagues, we may be friends, here's the line, that sort of thing I'm not comfortable with, don't do this again with me. For me, that's mine, but I respect the fact that not everyone will think the same way.
All right. We sure all of us have our differences and different experiences also. Sometimes some things work and sometimes they don't. So, Himra, I have a question which is a follow-up on this one only. So, usually, in most of the cases, not every time, when somebody is in power, has power over you, like for instance, your supervisor. So a lot of abuse comes from that side, from, somebody who is your manager or your boss, whatever. So if that's happening, people and girls, women, men, whatever, they are all, very cautious that what if okay, this person is harassing me, he's my abuser, but what if I go and complain to HR or whoever? I'm going to risk my career, my job could be at stake, and there is no way to prove this because maybe that person is not communicating on texts or emails, it's just verbal abuse that's going on. So what should we do in such scenarios where we feel our bosses have that power over us?
Right. So just picking on, what Lala Rukh said, because I kind of agree with her, because as women, most of my career, I worked with men. I worked in a factory environment where I was surrounded by 82 men, and those two factory staff, etc. I think you need to draw your own boundaries. And again, she said, even, the boss is in power, you need to be able to speak up. You need to talk to people. And I think in terms of, yes, sometimes it does impact performance, etc. But the organizations today, like you mentioned about the policies, there's a lot of, the organizations that I worked in, there's a lot of gender and sexual harassment sensitization trainings that happen. And if you have a policy, there is no way that, the boss can kind of discriminate you, because then as HR, and I've experienced it, you can ask the other colleagues about the behavior, and the line manager can also be told off that we are putting you under observation. So if you do a discriminatory act, we are watching you. And you do that, you penalize the person as well. And I've seen this happening where, I remember I confronted one of the managers, and he was actually crying in front of me that he's done it, he will not do it again. But I did not spare him. I actually gave him a warning that next time this happens, I will not even talk to him and he'll be fired. So you need to, I think, you need to be strong, and I think you need to have a very strong HR and legal teams. The committee members, sometimes, HR wale bhi ye bolte hain, theek hai, dekhte hain, ye one off hua hai. You set your own boundaries. If you don't like anybody passing a comment on you, just like that. I remember there was a male harassing a male colleague. I'm not going to say what it was because it was a bit mean. And he said something because the person was different. And the person felt it. So his female ally came to me and said, this is what the person has done. And I did a very simple thing as HR, because this person was important and he did not realize that this is not an appropriate word. I just coached him. I said, just be careful, just your words create an impact. I'm sure the intent wasn't there, but this can cause you, your job. So I think you need to have strong policies around it to support women, both women and men, I think, both.
All right, thank you so much. So, Lala Rukh, I'm going to come to you now. Have you seen certain systems and policies in place for sexual harassment in any of the organizations that you have worked, but they were not fully governed? The policies were not fully implemented, although they were there, but governance was missing on harassment policies.
Yeah, so the organization I work for was Shell, which has now become Wafi Energy. So we had a policy around what we called red lines. A few things are a direct termination. And if that is happening, the starting point for a disciplinary committee, and this used to be so that there was uniformity in the sort of consequence that we give out. So the starting point for a few offenses like fraud, theft, and sexual harassment, not all harassment, but sexual harassment, the starting position was always, you are fired. And then there was an exception, agar honi hai, if there is any extenuating circumstances. But generally,
that's a very polarized behavior, don't you think so? Because I've seen that in other organizations as well, that, if a female comes forward and complains of harassment, and if it's sexual harassment, the other person gets fired immediately. There is no tolerance for any explanation. So how does legal cover that as well? Please do.
Yeah, so look, what I'm gonna say is that from a sexual harassment and versus harassment, right? There are two, like I said, it's two different things. Harassment can be a lot of things. Sexual harassment is where there is something of a sexual nature. That for us was and is always going to be a starting if you have behaved inappropriately in a sexual manner. For example, you have sent bad images of yourself to somebody, you are sending very dirty messages to somebody, you are trying to touch them, grope them in a certain way, asking for sexual favors from somebody, putting that out to them that if you're not going to do this sort of sexual favor for me, you will not be promoted, your career will be over, that sort of stuff, that sort of threatening harassment. That is a clear, if that is substantiated. Remember, there is for every, so if you look at a disciplinary process, the complainant will go in, they will complain, then there is an inquiry, then there is a substantiation. For us, when it comes to disciplinary committee, if there is a substantiation that this is proved, then it's straight firing. If it's not sexual harassment and if it's other types of harassment, then there are other disciplinary consequences that are there. But the question you asked, right, sometimes, and I've experienced this on the disciplinary committee, right, when I'm looking at a person who has made a complaint of sexual harassment, a lot of the times it's very contractual staff who is not of the same sort of social strata as the rest of the management staff, right? And what you're thinking is, how am I going to protect this girl? If I'm firing somebody here today, what's going to happen when she's going on a bus to her house? Because, how is she going to protect herself from an acid thrown on her, for example, on the bus? So those are things that we have to deal with as well, right? How do we protect the victim as well? And there's a lot of times that we grapple with these dilemmas of how do you protect this? I mean, you're not going to give them guards all the time. Of what if somebody's just, makes their life miserable outside of work? So you need to be very, very careful in the sort of disciplinary action that you take versus the protection you're going to be able to give to the victim as well.
Yeah, I think that sort of answers it. Maha, would you like to add anything here?
I think this is a very scary thought which she mentioned. That's, what's going to happen next, I wasn't at this point in time thinking that, you have to think about the repercussions beyond this, that हम तो सिर्फ यही सोच रहे होते हैं कि अगर हम रिपोर्ट करेंगे तो नौकरी चली जाएगी. So I think that's the least that can happen. What she mentioned is something very, very scary. So I personally feel that, we need to, regardless, of the consequences and not be scared, we need to speak up. We need to have the courage. There will be consequences, They might not be in line with what we were expecting, but we have to take these kind of risks in life and speak up. Because, for instance, in that instance, if you're not able to protect yourself, but if you're going to speak up, maybe for the next person, you're protecting the next person. So, always speak up. Don't just think about yourself. Think about the whole system. Think about the whole organization and other women. So, yeah.
So, one last question that I would like all three of you to answer.